Today I played an insane game of chess, and I wanted to share it with everyone. I was playing on a guest account on chess.com, and I had my friend Violet on a call with me, spectating, and I was kind of explaining to her my thought process while I was making moves. That way she can learn how to play the game herself. Now, my opponent played a very slow move. He played e3. I don't have any openings memorized for this move, so right away I already have no clue what's going on. Usually everyone just plays e4, and then we can transpire into the Caro-Kann, but that was not the case here. So I decided to stay principled. In chess, if you can get 2 pawns into the center of the board, you want to take up as much central space as you can. You also want to develop your pieces and get your king castled. Getting your king castled is going to be a very important theme in this game, as I am punished for not doing so. So I get a pawn in the center of the board. My opponent plays another slow move, so I take control of the center. My opponent, foaming in the mouth and absolutely drooling onto himself, checks me for zero reason whatsoever. There's a few different ways you could deal with this check. You can put your queen here, and you can offer a queen trade. I don't want to do that. You can put the bishop here and counterattack. Now he has to move the queen again. You can put your knight here. Now, the knight does not counterattack, and it also self-pins. So after the knight goes here, you can't move it because it's glued to the king, thanks to the queen. You can block with a pawn. This move is fine. I don't really like it, though, because then I can never put my knight on this square, although it would give me a good pawn structure. You can also block with this pawn, which they just take for free, and then you're in check again, so that would be a blunder. With that being said, I attack the queen, and he finds this move. This move is really important because it is a fork on these pawns. After I move this bishop, I am no longer defending this pawn, and my queen is no longer defending this pawn. So, I just go back. If my opponent decides they want to repeat moves, I'm just going to block with my knight, and we'll play the position from there. That's what I decided to do. The opponent did not do that. They developed their knight attacking this pawn. I'm like, okay, I'll defend it. I develop my knight, staying principled, developing your pieces. Develop my knight, defending my pawn. The opponent pins my knight. So now this knight is no longer defending this pawn because it can't move because my king is on the same diagonal as the queen. So there's a couple different ways to defend it. In hindsight, I probably should have played bishop d6. This defends the pawn. It also develops a piece and gets me closer to castling. Very, very principled. I did not do that. Instead, I attacked his knight with a pawn. I immediately regretted this because this knight is pinned. So I immediately saw knight here, and then now I have 2 attackers on this knight. I have 1 defender, which is the pawn, and I now have to add a second defender. My opponent plays this instead of this, which does the same exact thing. It's still the same threat. I defend with the bishop. My opponent takes. I take back. His other bishop comes from across the map. And now we're faced with the same problem again. If I take, he'll take with check. This is a fork on this pawn. I don't have a really good way to block this check. But taking here is not forced. I don't have to take this bishop. So I can put my queen here. If I put my queen here, he's going to take. I take back. He takes back. And then I double my pawns to take back. And I didn't want to have double pawns. I didn't want to have that weakness. I'm not losing material, but it's a weakness that it's an unnecessary weakness. So I was trying to think of how can I defend this without having this weakness. And I found knight to e7. He takes, I take back, and then now obviously he's not going to trade his queen for a knight. It's just not going to happen. My opponent, oh my god. After I put my knight here, I instantly, before he played this move, I instantly knew what he was going to do. This knight is pinned on the king, once again, because I didn't play this move and get castled. So he's going to do what's called putting pressure on the pinned piece. He's going to run this pawn down the board and try to win the knight using the pawn because of the pin. So b4 came, and I knew that no matter what, b5 was the next move. No matter what. And I'm like, okay, there's a couple different ways I can deal with this. I chose to play a6. My opponent plays b5 anyway. I take, he takes my pawn back, and then I see that I can attack his queen because the rook would be defended by the knight. Even though it's pinned, after the queen took the rook, the knight would grab it back because it wouldn't be pinned anymore. So I can attack the queen, but this pawn would hang. That's the problem, is he wins this pawn, and I don't want him to win anything. So I play queen over, preparing this move. The problem with this move is I've now hung this pawn. The queen was previously defending this. And if I advance this pawn, then I hang this knight. Because this pawn's the defender. So, my opponent thankfully missed that, and they played this for no reason. They played a4. No idea why. They completely missed this. I would imagine if I was white, I would have found this. And then black offers a queen trade. White accepts the queen trade, and then you take, and then you've won a pawn and you've doubled pawns. I mean, that's got to be winning for white. Not entirely certain. But I attacked the queen like I wanted to, which also, by the way, remember this pawn is hanging because I moved this queen here. When I attack the queen, I also defend the pawn through the queen. On purpose. I definitely thought of all of that. Queen goes back. And the only thing I want to do is castle. I want my king out of the center of the board. I want to stop being attacked. Please, stop pinning me. Stop checking me for no reason. Leave my king alone. So I play bishop d6, finally. This develops a piece, lets my bishop see a lot of diagonals, and I can castle on the next move. My opponent says no. My opponent attacks my bishop immediately. This doesn't directly stop me from castling, but if I castle, then he takes my bishop, and then I double my pawns. And I've been trying for my hardest this entire game to not give him any sort of advantage, not let him win any pawns, not let him double my pawns. So, I can't let that happen. I just trade. Now, there's 3 pieces that can take this bishop. There's a knight, a rook, and a queen. If he takes with the queen, you can't castle through a square that's being attacked. So him taking with the queen stops me from castling, which is what I've wanted for so long. But my opponent misses that as well, and he takes with the rook. I don't know what just happened. Let's go back. He takes with the rook, and I'm like, oh my days, it's over. So I put my knight, no, I castle, he castles, I put my knight in the center. My knight is on an outpost, it's super strong, it's seeing so much activity. Look at all these squares my knight sees, look how strong it is. And my opponent attacks my rook. There's nothing defending the rook right now. So, I saw that I can sacrifice my knight. After he takes my knight, I take back, and now I have a pawn on this square that is restricting the movement of his king. His king's kind of trapped in a corner, as well as my queen gets immediate access to the king. And I just didn't see how he could stop this mate threat. So that's what I do. I sacrifice my horse. Now, my opponent does not have to take. They can just move the king over. My opponent does not do that. They do take, of course. And then in this position, I sat here and I thought, and I was like, oh my god, I'm wrong. Because if I take, I can only bring my queen if he takes the hanging rook. Right now, the queen is... the pawn was stopping the queen from seeing the square. So now if I take, if my opponent sees this, this doesn't work anymore. And I was like, oh my god, I just sacrificed my knight for no reason. I thought I was trading a knight for a pawn, and I was making his king super unsafe. Now, to be fair, his king is super exposed and unsafe. I just don't really have a way to take advantage of that. So I play rook to a6. What this does is it defends my rook. It also prepares for me to check him for no reason. My opponent makes the worst mistake of the game, and he takes a pawn. This blocks his queen. And I'm giddy with joy because now there's going to be a checkmate. So I check him with my queen. He can't go anywhere but here. Moves over. Check him again. Moves over. Rook over is checkmate. What a game. Oh my god, what a fun game. Now, this game was played on a guest account on chess.com. Because it was on a guest account, the game isn't saved. Chess.com immediately deletes guest games. I went through the history on my FireFox, and I found the game. Here's the game ID. When you put it in the URL, the game doesn't load. It just takes you to play a match of chess. So I went to the Wayback Machine with the game's URL to try and find the game. Because, you know, unfortunately, right after I won, I closed the game without thinking about it. And then I was like, you know what? I should have saved the move order. Because that game was fire. Now, the Wayback Machine, I had hopes that they took a snippet of chess.com at the time. I was wrong. They didn't. And then I started thinking, and I was like, it's got to be, like, it has to be in existence somewhere. You know, I would pull up a board, and I knew that, if I flip this board really quick, I knew that he played this, I played this, he played this, and I played this, and then he checked me for no reason. After those moves, I have no idea what was next. So I went to a new tab, and I put about:support into FireFox, and this brings up some information about your Firefox browser, but most importantly, it brings up your profile folder location. I copied this folder location on my... I copied it. This is where your local cache and your storage related to Firefox is. I used an AI assistant called Claude. I gave it access to this folder, and I also gave it this game ID. This game ID right here. And I asked it to go through the game data and see if it could find it. And then eventually it did. And it gave me all of the moves so that I could record this video. And the game was found, and it's not lost forever. What a beautiful ending.